It's a Wales through a goal. Slots it beyond Foderingham. And the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box for Doffin. He can hit them. And he does. The Dolphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and it's sadly another defeat. This time better than it was last time away from home, but essentially the same result. 0 points coming back to Rotherham. We will pick through those 90 minutes and where we go from here. 3 games in. Mick is with us. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm all good, mate. Thank you. Are you?
I'm very, very good. Thank you very much. And Tom's back with us. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, let's get cracking into this.
Yeah, there's the positivity from us. I think that's we'll get positive in a minute. I think we'll talk about the first goal. Let's not push from that. It's our worst start to a season since 2016-17, which is
did you have to say that?
the infamous Alan Stubbs era. That's the start we're having. Only 3 games though, so let's not get too down. Mick shaking your head as if you're unhappy with that start.
I don't care about that start.
I don't think you would.
I don't care about it. So move on. Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Everyone's down here though, aren't they? Middlesbrough haven't started well. Leeds haven't started well. It's fine. 3 games is nothing currently.
He's got a point up board. That's better than some.
Exactly.
Darren Coward's with us. Dave Lawton says, "Evening, cheer us up, lads." Martin Holler, Nicola Dew, Kim Haywood. Nicola Dew says, "Ready for some group therapy." That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Brian Alex says, "Evening." John is the smug face in the room. Says, "Don't worry, he'll add some cheer and positivity." They're an amazing start, to be fair, to Birmingham. There's no way we can't talk about it any other way. Let's move on. Mick, we were surprised to see. Let's start with the starting lineup. It was what I wanted, to be honest with you. Diahy got his first start. Andre Green got his first start. It was basically once again a 4-3-3, and it was what we wanted. If you talk about pre-goal, let's talk about the pre-goal first. We set up really well. We set up in a positive manner. I was really, really happy up until when they scored.
Yeah, absolutely. Performance up to that point was outstanding. In comparison to Stoke, it was outstanding, and it was a progression from the way that we played against Blackburn, where we should have won the game. So, yeah, up until then scoring, I was very, very happy with it. Really pleased with just the way that even the players that had not played together before clearly was beginning to settle in pretty quickly. So, no, I was happy with it up to that point. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, I think let's stay with the positives and talk about the first goal, Danny. Tom, sorry. 18 passes, I think it's been counted. I think Paul Davis counted 18 passes. It was a really, really well worked goal. From start to finish. I mean, the pass inside to Rathbone was brilliant, and the finish from Rathbone was from Odoffin, was brilliant.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it wasn't just a case of, we were passing it around the back. We worked their back line, their midfield well, got into some good spaces. It wasn't like it was 17 passes, then a long shot as well. We did it all, got into the box, good finish. Everyone seemed to be on the same wavelength. And if that's the sort of football that we're playing, which from the looks of it, everyone's completely happy with. Nobody's asking for this kind of hoofball Route 1 football to come back. Then if we keep doing this and we keep bringing in the players that can do that, then, expect more of it and expect it in better and more better quality and more quantity of it as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's the patience we dig out Russell Martin, for example, certainly at Swansea last season. of just being it's a pass for the pass sake, and that happens a lot of times in the Championship. Happened with Blackburn last week. Happened at times with Sunderland, to be honest with you, yesterday. It's just a pass for passing sake, and that wasn't the case. There was a patience about it. It wasn't actually passing for passing sake. There was obvious plan. Look, they were waiting for the gap, and then they went. It was just a really, really pleasing goal all round.
Yeah, it was. There was some intent with it, weren't there?
Yeah.
You know? And that's the difference between what we've seen from these other teams. I watched the Plymouth Southampton game, and it's just it's tedious, isn't it? It is so tedious.
Yeah.
And Southampton have still got the Premier League issue of throwing themselves on floor at every available opportunity as well, haven't they? So we'll come on to that with Sunderland at some stage, I'm sure. But yeah, it was positive. It was positive. It was good football, and we bossed the game. We were bossing the game. For me, in periods up to that point, and for me, probably we're edging it as the better side. But we can't. If we go into half time at 1-0, like I said on the preview podcast, stadium will start to empty. Because that's what happens at Sunderland. They'll start to get on the players' backs, and we would have won that game. So
it was happening already, even before the goal.
Yeah. So you've got to take advantage of that, and it was naive, really. I think Victor will be probably disappointed with himself for not stopping that. I think he probably feel that he should have. I think he should have, albeit it was close range. It was straight at him, and he kind of fumbled it, I think. I don't know whether he tried to catch it and drop it and dropped it instead of knocking it over the bar. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he'll be disappointed with that. But we shouldn't have allowed him into that position anyway. So disappointing, and obviously that changed the game a little bit, and it put our heads down for some reason, and we kind of reverted back to type at that point, which is disappointing, but. I'm sure Matt Taylor will be pointing this out, and they will be working on that.
Yeah, it was twice, almost 3 times in 3 weeks now, Tom, that we've got the goal suffering. So on the opening day, Peltier got a goal, get injured, and then went to red card. Last week, Onyedinma got the second goal, then got the red card, and then there's a similar thing this week where you get the opening goal, and then something bad happens. They concede a goal, and the Dauphin goes up injured. We just can't seem to catch a break, and I'm not playing the victim. I think this is obviously down to us as well. So certainly we are conceding a rubbish a goal, but we just can't seem to catch a break at the minute.
No, God no. And it's a bit like the Aaron Ramsey scoring curse, where when he scores, somebody dies. But a little bit of a minor one. But no, absolutely. And it seems to be the goal scorer as well that's always in bother. But coming into this season, I thought we'd really struggle for goals. So having scored in each of our last 3 games, that's something that I think, personally, I didn't think we'd do. I thought we'd grind out results, kind of 1-0 here and there, 0-0s, kind of that kind of stuff. So coming away with any kind of goal, and we do look threatening as well. It just always has to come with a bit of a curse because it's us. So swings and roundabouts.
On that first goal, Tom, Mick says he probably thinks Victor should have done better. Do you think are you putting that down as a keeper error?
I do agree with you, Mick. I think he would be disappointed with it because that's the high standards he sets for himself. But I do think that some of those other defenders will be disappointed with themselves as well. I think Bramwell not covering his back stick is criminal at this level. I think Bellingham being that free in the 6-yard box is pretty is poor as well. So leading up to the goal, it was a nothing ball in. Should have been dealt with, wasn't dealt with. Keeper should have saved it, went in. But then we didn't really kick on from there. I feel like they kind of gained the upper hand for the rest of the first half after that, which we shouldn't have allowed that to happen either. Because like you were saying, as soon as the crowd get onto them, which they were doing before our goal, it completely changes. So we needed to keep frustrating them, and we didn't, unfortunately. But it's these silly mistakes. We'll get onto it, but I'm sure it's for the second goal as well. Silly mistakes that are costing us more and more.
Yeah, no, I am worried about over defending Victor sometimes, but I feel like if he'd have saved that, we'd all be sitting here saying what a stunning save from 3 yards out header. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think by getting something on it, that makes us think he did worse than he actually did.
Yeah.
I think like I said, if he saves that, we're all sitting here saying it's stunning. You know what I mean. So I don't know. That's the balance I'm going to give.
I think Tom's hit the nail on the head there. You know, Victor set such high standards for himself.
Yeah.
You know, when something like that happens, I'm not blaming him for the goal. For God's sake, no. You know, the ball should never have got there in the first place, and that's the problem. The lad out on their left hand side should not have been allowed to get the ball in, and it wasn't a great cross, to be honest.
No.
You know? So again, we should have been defending it. It's there were far too many mistakes made before it got to Victor. So it is what it is. We're going to concede goals, aren't we? But we've got to do the basics right at the back. And we talked about this at the beginning of the season when we felt that defensively we were looking very, very strong. And that at the moment is our weakness, which is a surprise. But you've got to add into that we have got some quality back there. And these players don't become bad players overnight, you know. But they've got to cut out these daft mistakes.
Do you guys think it might be a case of a lack of a leader back there? And that's not to say Humphreys and Blackett aren't good at doing that stuff, but we've always had the likes of a Morrison, a Hall, or a Wood, or etc. Do you reckon that's maybe?
Wouldn't surprise me. I think that's why it was so key to keep Morrison. So you've got that player and maybe a little bit of Grant Hall as well, because you need a Richard Wood type player. I completely agree, Tom. I think we do miss that leadership, especially with Bramall left back, who I think needs to be kept on a short leash defensively. I think he needs a lot of help, and Lembersee could be such a kid as well. I think centrally we are lacking. Although I do think Blackett had a good game, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Mick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's very difficult to criticise Tyler Blackett in any of the games that he played this season. I think he's been very, very good. So, you know, the players know what they should be doing. They've got to take responsibility, you know. And you're right, Colin Bramall, he loves to attack, he loves to get forward, and he does neglect his defensive duties at times. But that's for him. You know, he shouldn't have to have somebody that stood at the side of him. He's a fully functioning adult, you know. He should not have to have somebody stood at the side of him telling him what to do. So he will learn, you know.
Should have learned by now. He's 27.
Yeah. Well, he should have learned by now, but, you know, there's the instinct side of the game as well that you can't and don't want to take away from players like Colin Bramall, you know. And again, he is not solely to blame for that ball.
No.
Getting back in, you know? It was a bit of a catalogue of defensive errors, none of which included either of the centre halves, to be fair.
No. Yeah.
True. Phil thinks we're being very critical of Victor. I'm with you, Phil.
Yeah.
We'll let him off. I'm sure he won't let himself off, as we've already mentioned, but we will let him off. Nicholas Gilmore says, up to the first goal, thought we looked very organised and our shape was really good. Yeah, I think it was. It's frustrating that we've had a lapse straight after scoring, as we already mentioned. The injury, Mick, the injury to a Dauphin, Mick, and that it's very easy to say this, and I don't know whether the goal was the killer or whether the Dauphin injury was the killer, but together they just felt like there was no coming back from it, because we had to bring McGuckin on. We will talk about McGuckin later on, I think, but we had to bring on a youth player. And it had to change the shape. Rathbone had to change where he was coming from. Green had to change his position. It changed everything. It changed the formation. It changed everything. It's such a brutal injury at a key time in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It did change the way we played, and as a consequence, changed the game, I guess. I've no doubt if a Dauphin had been able to stay on, then we would have probably gone back at him. But we weren't able to do that, you know, as a result of the change. So it's a shame, isn't it? You know, but injuries happen in football, and we just seem to be getting the brunt of it at the beginning of the season at the moment. And I'm sure we'll have a run throughout the season where we don't get any, and then we'll get some more. You know, that's how it works, innit? We all know that. So, and you know, we can't go blaming. Oh God, we're going to find somebody to blame, aren't we, in social media?
We're going to blame. Let's blame somebody. Pick somebody. Come on.
It's manager's fault. It's Wayne Carlisle's
Team
fault for not
staff.
training them hard. It's Paul Warren's fault for not for training them too hard. For God's sake, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully it came off as a precaution. I've seen a few people mentioning in the comments that it is a muscle injury, so we'll have to see, won't we? Hopefully it's just a strain and a week's rest will put him right. Touch wood.
Yeah, Holly says hack muscle injuries to be assessed tomorrow. I mean, the severity of the injury is going to depend on the next steps. If it turns out to be a serious one, like Peltier, it's going to be a 2 or 3 month job. He's going to need to go into the transfer market. There's no two ways around that. If it's just a 2-week job and back after the international break, then I maybe don't think that. But that's a key moment to find out what happens with a Dolphins injury, to be honest. But yeah, moving on, Tom. Second goal. Difficult one, really, because we've tried to do something good. Cam Humphries has tried to step out with the ball and trying to create a counter attack, and he's maybe has he been careless, or has Sunderland just been wise to it and done very, very well? Are you blaming him, or just saying they've done well?
You could argue both, but you've got to also commend him for the amount of times he did it, and it was successful. And we got out and we started playing from it. He did it a lot of times. So for him to do it again is no real surprise there, really. It's just, like you say, it's a little bit of carelessness, a little bit of fatigue, which Taylor's mentioned a lot of them are feeling. It's one of those things where it's just a bit of a lapse in judgment and the pass isn't right. Pass wasn't on. It didn't really look like. And then the issue as well is that other teams might probably wouldn't punish us for it. But Sunderland are, even though we competed with them very well, they were in the playoffs last season. They are a good side. And they unfortunately did punish us for that. But having said that, we did, give it to them on a silver platter almost. So yeah, but again, if anyone's annoyed that Humphries didn't boot it into Rosed, then it's not our style anymore, and that's what a lot of fans are liking about it. I personally don't mind that he tried to play out from the back. I just think that his decision making was wrong and the pass wasn't executed well. On another day, that goes through to Green and we're on the counter. So yeah, I mean, it happens, but I'd rather him try it, 6 more times in the next 2 games than not try it in the next 2 games and try and boot it out and try and play from there. So it's a matter of opinions about the way that you'd want to play. In terms of mistakes happen, and unfortunately we got punished by it.
Yeah, and also, Mick, you've got to bear in mind that if this is the way, this is clearly what Matt Taylor's wanting. This is clearly what we're trying to be a bit more clever with the ball, trying to be a bit calm with the ball. So as a team, you know that sometimes Cam Humphries is going to step out with the ball. That's going to happen from time to time. So what you need to do as his 10 other mates is to make sure that gap is not a gaping gap where if and when he's going to, because he's going to lose the ball. The defence needs to be better, whether that's Lembasika or Blackett not coming across, or Cafu or whatever from midfield not filling that gap. But all Bellingham did was stand in the gap where Humphries was and hit. Great finish. Look, it was a great finish.
Yeah.
But there should have been a man closer to him covering for Cam Humphries.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's basic schoolboy defending, isn't it? If one of your defenders steps out, somebody steps into cover. I mean, you do that under 8s, under 9s. It's not. So again, it's a defensive error. And perhaps maybe on this occasion, this is where you need your Richard Wood, your Sean Morrison type, to be alive to that, and perhaps a bit of naivety back there, like you say with Dexter back there. I think it was on his side. Was it? I can't remember whether it was
on his side. Yeah.
He's a young kid, but you should know. So another defensive error. As you said, take nothing away from the finish. Good finish, but it shouldn't have got to him.
Yeah,
it shouldn't. Stephen Anderson potentially looked a bit of tiredness in part in the second goal. Yeah, possibly. I worry about being tired at this time of season, and that's maybe me being not understanding football and modern day football in the situation, Tom. But to be fatigued, I know we haven't got a very big squad. They've had a week's rest, and this is their 3rd league game of the season. I'm struggling with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the amount of times that managers like to say as well that they'd love to play the same team, and they do, and they get a consistency going, and that same team plays week in, week out, and you see how well they play when they get a bit of consistency going, and you're not constantly chopping and changing. The fact that we are apparently looking leggy after 3 games is not good. I would agree, and it does get to the point where you think, is it to do with how much they're running in the game, the tactics kind of thing playing a part, training playing a part, because you see other sides with consistent players. I mean, you look at Luton, who just went up. I can't imagine that they changed 6 or 7 players every time they played and have them rotating. It was basically the same 11 each game. So it's a bit of a worry. Whether or not that means that we might have to sit lower next game, have a bit of a low block, or whether it means that we need to rest those players that are a bit older. Who knows yet? But you have to remember as well, we have finished the last 2 games with 10 men as well. So
yes, yeah, I'm just putting comments. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that plays a part as well. So yeah, I don't. Not at the minute. I don't think we should worry, but it's definitely noticeable how tired we did look towards the end of that first half and second half.
Mick's pulling a face.
I didn't see that. I mean, I'll bow to other people's view on that, but it's not something that I particularly saw or was aware of.
I don't think I noticed it, but as soon as you look at it back, the goal, and you notice what Taylor said about them feeling leggy, you kind of look at it and you think it's not so much the running, we're running less, or we're trying less. It's kind of the mental. Somebody mentioned the mental fatigue, the kind of out on your feet, you're sluggish in your play. I don't know. I felt like we the first half we started so well, it didn't carry on, and fatigue has to play a part, and I don't know why.
So I agree. I thought certainly the last half an hour was just a team that just didn't run anymore. They just didn't like they could move for 20 minutes, half an hour. Now we started playing long ball, which Jamie Nyson's put in his comments. We resort to long balls towards Hugo. We needed support under pressure, one behind. Really concerned about the type of player we've technically says. We need to go for it 2 strikers, crying out for another striker, and creative midfielders to make things happen a bit more. Well, I wonder if that. We did go long though, which certainly after Eves and JJ came on, and when there was just so many aimless long balls to those two, those last 20 minutes were really painful to watch. To be honest with you.
Yeah, they were. We resorted to type, didn't we? And that was disappointing, very disappointing. There's not a lot else you can say on that, is there? I was disappointed with Jordan Hugill yesterday.
Not a good start to the season, has it?
No, I'm beginning to question what he offers to us. I'll be honest, and I know he can cut it at this division, at this league. There's no doubt about that. There's no question about his ability, but he's not really offering us a great deal at the moment. Now, whether that's because we're not playing to his strengths, I don't know. And if it is, then maybe we should either 1, look to play to his strengths, or 2, look to swap him out for somebody who can do what we're expecting him to do, which Hakeem Adofin seems to be doing.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of these players, Hacks, that starts off as a centre half, goes to a central midfielder, and finishes his career as a striker, isn't he? He's going to be one of these. So Adofin was far more effective as a striker than Jordan Hugill was. The issue for Hugill is his lack of pace is ridiculous. I'm pretty sure I could beat him over 10 yards. He is so slow, which is a worry. As a professional footballer, if you know that that's an issue for you, then surely you should be doing something about that and trying to improve a little bit, because I'm sure there's some improvements to be made. But yeah, I just worry about that a little bit. But I think it's probably more us not playing to his strengths rather than him all of a sudden overnight turning into a bad player, which we know that doesn't happen. But yeah, we got to the point where we were just kicking it long, and Eves had no chance, and again, didn't get the protection. I don't think that a lot of that the defenders get, but that's how it is in that when you start playing that kind of football, isn't it?
Yeah. Holly says bring back Jamie Lindsay. I do think we are missing Lindsay, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's just the option to bring off bench. I don't think Rafa had a particularly good game, so Jamie Lindsay would have been perfect to have on. I also think we're missing a Shane Ferguson type player as well. That's really obvious to say we haven't got any other wingers at club. But we're really missing Fergie at the minute as well. But he's injured. John Morell says Hugo is a bit like Jukovic for Birmingham. Is a great plan B, but can't be a plan A as it limits you playing one way. I mean, the problem with Hugo is, and I do like Hugo. I've got a lot of time for Hugo, Tom, but we bought him in January for that team last year, and Matt Taylor played the cards he was dealt. It was a team that really lacked technical ability, and we needed a focal. We were desperate for a focal point, and he brought in one of the best focal points in the division. He's great at what he does. But I worry and think that if we're going to try and play this different way, could Hugo have made that run that Odoffin did? I'm not convinced he can. I don't think he's that type of striker. So then, what are you asking him to do? I am confused about Hugo's role in this new style.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Taylor's already said that he wants another centre forward, doesn't he? And he bought Green as a centre forward kind of striker, didn't he, as well? So, it's one of these things where I agree with that comment that he can't be a plan A. He has to be a plan B when it's all going not quite right. You stick him on with the striker that you've already got on, and you hope that he causes a bit more chaos, a bit more of a nuisance in the box kind of thing. But for this style of play, for this kind of team, you need somebody who's quite quick, who's good on the ball, who can turn and run at defenders, but can also who can come short, turn and run at defenders, but who can also go in behind, make those runs into the channels. And Hugo doesn't do any of that really. He's, like you said, just a vocal man. Wins his flick-ons, holds up the ball reasonably well, but we don't do that anymore. So it is interesting to see where we're going to go from here and what kind of striker he wants to bring in. But I completely agree. I thought Hugo was a positive signing when we signed him, and he'd still be a good backup striker, but he's not a starting striker.
No. Yeah. We've gone very negative, haven't we?
Get out of the way early.
Dave Lawton says it's gone substitutions. This is the depth issue. Every substitution made us worse. I get that due to injuries, but it's a fact. We've also got a comment from Nick Henderson. The young lad who came on, can't be blamed him for anything, for trying to learn an effort. He is learning. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few. I certainly think there's a player in McGuckin. I really like Kieran McGuckin as a player. He's 19-year-old, but he's just getting caught out a little bit. He's playing against experienced players, and he's having to learn on the job in the Championship for an hour. If it's 20 minutes at the end of the game, it's a bit different. But he came on at a crucial time in the game, and that just shows where we are as a squad, that we have to rely on him. He's the next up, and that's a really concern that the depth is not there at all, and it's a real worry. It's a real worry at the minute.
It is, but Ben Wiles was suffering a little bit with an injury. He would have been on the bench yesterday. Jamie Lindsay's on his way back from an injury. He would have been on the bench yesterday. So all of a sudden you've got the depth. It's just because the way the injuries have fallen in that area of the pitch that we're struggling on the bench, and we were struggling on the bench yesterday. And Kieran McGuckin came on and he did a decent job. He's a 19-year-old inexperienced lad who's never played at Championship level before. He got bullied a couple of times, but he had a decent game. He didn't make any mistakes necessarily.
He didn't stop going either, compared to him. He kept going and going.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's got some work to do. Of course he has, because he's 19. But there's definitely a player in there, and he's only there on the bench because of the current injury situation. And I think once that clears up, which it will, then whilst we still haven't got the depth that we need, we've got a damn sight more depth than we were able to show on Saturday. There'll be some more additions, I'm sure, before the end of this transfer window. And if there aren't, as long as we can remain fit, then yeah, we're still not going to have the depth that we would like, but we should have enough. Should.
Yeah. Well, George is now out for a period of time, a serious knee injury, which could be, it could be a serious knee injury, could be even from 3 months to 12 months.
Yeah.
So that remains to be seen what that's going to be. He was our second choice striker, behind Hugo. So that's a massive blow. So if we were going to bring in one striker, we now probably need to look at a second striker because you want that bodies in there. But does the budget stretch that far? Because you sort of pay George. Well, George is out injured for 3 months, let's say. You still got to pay him. So can you afford to bring in 2 new strikers to cover your injured man? It then becomes really difficult for Matt Taylor and people in charge of the budget. Issues all around. I want to talk about Ollie Rathbone, Tom. I thought he had a poor game yesterday. And I couldn't really work out why. I can work out to start with because he played him out. He seemed to be playing left hand side, which were odd. But it's one of those things. If Rathbone doesn't shine, we don't shine. I thought it was really obvious that for some reason, again maybe fatigue, but he was well off it. Rathbone. We really not like him, like himself, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's the same of if you ask anyone to play out of position and in a role that they're unfamiliar with, as soon as you don't play, there you lose that confidence, you lose that ability to do what you're good at, which for him is, in all fairness, getting stuck in, cliche kind of comment, but he harasses, he's got a abundance of energy, and if he's just doing that down the right hand side, then he's not affecting the game really, as much as you'd like him to. I think by saying he had a bad game, do you mean he wasn't as effective as we?
It didn't impact the game. He obviously assisted the goal, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh.
Yeah,
I don't think he had a positive impact other than that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I agree with that. He just went a bit missing. But that does happen with players that play out of position. I don't know if he's ever played as a winger role, and then that goes back to the issues of depth. Because if you're not playing your best players in their best positions because of the depth that you have, then you're also compensating for that. Which might mean that, who knows, we might have a better performance against Leicester because we're more balanced with Onyedinma coming back and. Onyedinma coming in for a Dauphin, hypothetically, because he might be out for the game. And then you move Rathbone back into midfield and you're a bit more balanced. And maybe we can see a bit more of a performance from him. But, it happens to players. And if Rathbone was constantly performing to the levels that we know he does do every game, then he wouldn't be with us. He'd be at a top end championship side. So, players are allowed their off days, especially when they're out of position.
Absolutely, it's not like he's been rubbish the last 2 games and his rubbish again. I think it's a good start to season. I just think, he was off it. Dave Lawton says that Ollie wasn't great. How many played better than him? I think first half an hour, most of the players did. I thought we were a really good to start with. I take your point after that, though. I do take your point after that. One positive I thought, I'm maybe shot down for this. I thought Andre Green had a really, really good start to the game. I thought it was really bright. He did what I want a striker to do, is take the ball and go forward with it. He wasn't afraid to just move the ball forward, take it 20 yards and pass it off to somebody else. That is a really, really good start. He clearly wasn't fit, by the way, because he was towing towards end, but I thought it was a really, really good start from Green.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was really, really good until he, like you say, he started to tire a little bit. So good, promising signs from Andre Green. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. So let's just we can only sit tight on that one, can't we? But a positive performance, without a doubt. Do
you think he could do a job as a central striker in the place of Hugo, or do you think he's not got the physicality?
Depends how we're going to play, doesn't it? It depends how we're going to play. If you're going to start pumping balls up long, no, that's not going to happen, is it? No. Because that's not the type of player that he is. But if you're going to play like we played for the goal, which is clearly the way Matt Taylor's wanting to certainly integrate with it into the game, not necessarily play it for the full 90 minutes, but integrate that into our game, then absolutely, I think he could. But I struggle a little bit with a single striker. It's not great. It's not great at all. But
it didn't get much better when we put 2 up top, though.
Well, it didn't. It didn't. But what? Yeah. I mean, Tom Eaves is on a hiding to absolutely nothing at that point when he comes on, because everybody's going to say we're crap because he didn't do anything, and all he had to do was try and chase the ball around and try and chase defenders down. He had nothing to do because the ball was never sent to him, you know. And and JJ, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know whether he's still recovering from his injury, or I'm not sold from what I've seen of JJ, unfortunately. And I don't want to say that because I want the lad to do well, but he's had, for me, absolutely no impact at all in both the games, or the two games that I've seen him come on in. I accept he scored in the Morecambe game and what have you, but it just, yeah. But at that point, anyway, when they both came on, like I said, the way that we were playing was just, we'd gone, hadn't we, really? Bizarrely.
Yeah, we had. Gary Mitchell points out that Rafa was actually on the right. Green was on the left. We started okay, he says, but Doffin goes off, and then McGuckin comes on, who did okay, but you bring Eaves, Coyote, and Bowler on. He says you're not weighing anything. As he points out, Matt Taylor probably wants all three of those out on loan. Yeah. All three of those won't go out on loan because I don't think we can afford to. I mean, one or two of those might get a loan. But I can't see it. Yeah. Any other individual performances you want to talk about before we move on to a couple of other bits?
Do we talk about Thierry?
Yeah, talk about Thierry. I thought he had a okay game. I thought it was okay, but quiet. Tom, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Composed, I guess, is the way you say it. Couple good challenges here and there. Runs hard. I definitely yet to see the best of him, but from what it looks like, he looks like the sort of player that Taylor would like.
The complements Cafu and Rathbone, I think. He's different, but he seems
breaks up the play, moves it on. Kind of like Coventry was for us.
Yeah,
last season.
Good shout.
I thought he looked good. Just yet to see now.
Yeah. The question is, mate, we paid, $700,000. Why has he not scored a goal? Assisted one and pinged one in from 35 yards. What we wasted this money for?
It's a perfectly valid question, and I think you should immediately finish this podcast and go straight onto Twitter and ask that question. I really do. I mean,
okay. I think it's again much like Andre Green, clearly not fit, clearly not match fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to see more from Cafu. I'm not going to dig him out or anything like that, but I want to see a bit more from him. But again, he's been in here at games, hasn't he?
We need to see Cafu in more dangerous positions with the ball. And because he's sitting quite deep, he doesn't get into those dangerous positions as much as we would like. I think if you can get him in that, just into that final third with the ball, he is going to create lots and lots of problems. But just because of the way that we've played in the last couple of games, he's not been able to do that. But I think once he starts to get forward a bit more, they're worth watching.
Yeah, definitely.
And John, go on, Tom.
Sorry, I was just going to, and it's not to understate, his quality from set pieces as well. I mean, obviously the Onyedinma goal, and he put in a couple good crosses from set players as well. He's another one of them players that's still trying to get match fit, and he's definitely got quality that everyone can see. He was a fan favourite after 2 pre-season games, kind of thing. So give him time, and I think give him games. Touch wood, he doesn't get injured, and he could be one of our players of the season because he's got that ability to. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, agree. John Morell says you play one up top. I'll go back on that topic. It's all about the midfielders who play off the front man. Can only perform if given opportunities. Hugo is isolated a lot, and that is maybe why it doesn't work. Maybe that's not his fault. Nicholas Skimmer wants to point out that Dex had a great game against one of the best in the league. I think that's important to point out. Jack Clark is one of the best. He's been chased by Burnley, who are obviously in the Premier League. So I think Dex had a really, really good game. Although Jack Clark had a positive impact on the game a lot, I think they kept him relatively quiet. So I think for a young kid, I think that was. I think he had a good game. Mick's unhappy at Jack Clark, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I know you don't like it.
He's a cheat. Him and Sirkin. I mean, they're fantastic players. They really are. They're talented lads, but they cheat. It's not acceptable. It's not good enough. You know, we sing these lads praises and we tell them how good they are, and you know, but every single opportunity they get, they're throwing themselves onto the floor with minimal or no contact. It's not acceptable. I don't understand why we see it as acceptable behaviour. And Jack Clark is one of them. He's one of those kinds of players, hugely talented, but finds it necessary to cheat for some reason, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all, and it really tarnishes what could be, for me anyway. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe this is the way that football is nowadays. I don't know, but I don't accept it and I don't like it. He is a phenomenal player. There's no doubt about it, but it's tainted by his behaviour, and same with Sirkin. You know, just not good enough, not acceptable.
Yeah, I thought Clark didn't do too much of that yesterday.
Once is enough, though, isn't it?
I suppose it is.
You know, yeah. Don't get me going. Don't get me started.
John Morrell, Clark being one of the best in the league, clearly not seen Dembele for Birmingham. No, I do like Dembele, to be honest. But I'm sure he will rip us a new one whenever we play Birmingham. I'm sure that will come. Steve Allen said, "Am I last to ask about Mick about Gavin Ward's performance?"
Yeah,
Mick, dare I ask?
Yeah, thought you were all right. No, nothing to report. I mean, we talked about this on the Thursday show, didn't we? That this was going to be a tough gig for whichever referee took it on, and we all obviously moaned and groaned about the fact that we're Gavin Ward, and because of the previous we've had with him. The reality being that the previous we've had with him in the last couple of 3 games, his refereed has been fine. There's been no issues. And again on Saturday, I thought he was pretty anonymous. No real major decisions, as Nicholas Skidmore just said there in the comments. You know, there were no real major decisions to make. I think Matt Taylor was unhappy with the small amount of added time that was added on, given what's been.
I agree.
But maybe we are 3 games into the season now, so it's starting to peter out that, and we'll be back to 3 minutes and 4 minutes. You know, from now on, who knows? But no, I thought he had a decent game. You know. Maybe it was just his COVID season where he had a rush of blood to the head and couldn't see or whatever. But you know that since that point onwards, it's not been too bad with us. But again, when there are key decisions to be made is when you can really see a referee's mettle, can't you? And to be fair to Gavin Ward, there's not really been that. Those situations have not arisen in the games that he's officiated for us. So I thought he had a decent game. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We'll send it him. We'll send it PJ on just so Mick says you had a good game, believe it or not. Yeah, I agree. Nice and quiet. No major issues. How I like my referees. That, to be honest, Tom, anything on that?
No, as long as they're anonymous, then they've done their job fine. The game isn't about the ref. As soon as you make it about the ref, then it's an issue, which our friend Bobby Madley made it a bit, controversial. Made controversial decisions when they didn't need to be. So to say that there was no major decisions to make, kind of isn't true, because some referees make major decisions because they want to make them. So I agree with Mick though. I think he's had that one really, really bad error, and we've kind of just clung on to that for the rest of the time. And every other game he's refed us, he's been okay. So I don't see an issue with him.
It's just it's just the worst decision I've ever seen. Does taint me.
Yeah, exactly. It was a really, really, really bad decision. But yeah.
Troop says we can't be blaming the referees, which we aren't, but we can't blame referees when we are, say, 10 games in. Person thinks we'll be in the bottom 3. It's very possible, even probable, but it doesn't matter after 10 games. That's that, and that's the thing. I think we all need to often take a step back, and I think we often don't take a step back, and this is why we don't do an instant reaction on the away games, because then we lose most of them. Because it'd be really tough to take a step back and sort of think, right, it's only 3 games in, it's fine. Don't worry too much. There's shoots there, and to move back to some positives, probably we move on to a couple of bits, Mick. There are green shoots of positivity. The first 25 minutes up until their goal we were in control of that game. They may have probably had better possession than us, but we were in control of what they were doing with the ball. Much like as Blackburn, we were in control of what they were doing, and then when we had the ball, we made something of it. Yeah. There are parts of yesterday that are a positive,
without a doubt. No question about that, in my view. It's a question now as to how we progress, and whether we can maintain it for 45 minutes, 90 minutes. We've had a tough start to the season, and it continues to be tough, and it'll be a tough season all the way through. But it will get marginally easier at times, and that's when we've got to start to take advantage. So I don't think anybody expected us to get anything at Stoke. We didn't. Nobody would have. Maybe Blackburn may have been earmarked to get something out of it. We did. And I don't think anybody in a million years would have expected us to get anything at Sunderland. We nearly did, and probably should have, had we been able to maintain, the performance of the first 40 minutes or so, 35 minutes. So we're not getting battered. Anybody, we are in games with quality sides. And there are going to be some sides that we play this season that ain't got the quality. So, and we will continue to progress. We're not just going to stand still. We're not at the stage now. This is how Rotherham United are. They ain't going to get any better. They ain't going to learn. They ain't going to train. These are the performances you're going to see for the next 43 games. That's not how it works, is it? We will improve, as will others, I accept. But yeah, definitely there's quite a lot of positivity for me because we are starting to change the way that we play.
Yeah, we're still in a bit of a transition phase if you really think about it. And up until Taylor has the squad, as most of the squad that he has. So after the transfer window, that's when you can kind of start to criticize and start to nitpick. But up until then, any result, even though you obviously love a result to go your way, if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world because three back-to-back wins and you're 9 points better off where you are, and you go from being down here to near playoff to being you go from being relegation fodder to being comfortably mid-table, and all it takes is 3 games back-to-back. And I think people really underestimate how chaotic the Championship is. And like you said as well, Mick, underestimated the quality of our opposition and how we've at times, and if not more so than they have, made them look average and competed with them. So I'm it might just me being a happy clap or whatever, but I've just seen positives in the last 3 games. Even though the results haven't gone our way, I still think we've been okay. We've been good enough.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, we've got a couple of tough fixtures coming up. Leicester at home and Norwich at home. The home games, obviously. But Leicester have had a perfect start. Norwich have had a really, really good start. I'm surprised, but they have. But then then comes the international break. The international break is probably going to come at a really good time for us. And then the fixtures after the international break, you're talking Huddersfield away, Millwall away, Preston at home, Cardiff away, Bristol City at home before Southampton. So you then come into a kind of start at the kind of stage of the season when we're a bit more settled, hopefully a few more injuries coming back. We're not sitting here saying let's just write August off, but these are tough teams. These are really good teams we're coming up against. And as John Mill says, it took Burnley 5 games to sort, and then last season. If there's 10 games in, and the situation's still the same, maybe show a bit of concern, which I think is a sensible way of looking at it. Maybe even longer than 10 games, to be honest.
I think that's key. I think that's key with whatever you're doing with football. You need to get yourself established within the season, no matter whether you're at the bottom, at the top, or where you are. 10 games in is when you can really start to take stock of how you are,
the patterns you've played,
how you're cutting it against the rest of the division. Until that point, it's. We said it, and we keep saying it. The beginning of the season throws up some really weird results, doesn't it? And I think this season's no different. So yeah, that probably one of the problems with doing a podcast like this is that you're trying to look for positives in something that you've not really got the sufficient information to draw on. You know what I mean? So all we can do is just take mickey out of people who are panicking and try and maintain our sort of legendary status as happy clappers.
Yeah.
If anybody is genuinely panicking and not just doing it for clicks, don't worry. After 3 games, we may well be. We are probably going to be in for a struggle anyway. So, but we're going to win some games. We're going to lose a lot of games. Well, I'm sure, but most 95% of people like the will. I'm sure we'll turn up on Saturday against Leicester and go loud, be loud and sing loud, but try and stay positive where you can.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's only Leicester, for crying out loud.
I know.
Don't forget the way that we've played previously under Matt Taylor against teams like
Leicester.
We've really managed to put the frighteners on these teams. Because they come expecting a certain style of football and they don't get it. So we'll see. Let's wait and see. We might come away having been beaten 7-0, but who cares?
I like it when and we'll talk about this more on the game, the preview show on Thursday. But I love these games. These are the games like when Frank Lampard came with Derby County, and just things like that. When the big boys come to little old Rotherham, this is when we come into our own. I think. I'm really looking forward to it. Phil says we now have the unenviable distinction of having the longest winless away record in the EFL, and we aren't good enough to let these points go. Yeah, but only 2 of those this season. The rest of it's last season when we stayed up, when we were successful. So from that, and Dave Lawton win against Blackburn, and the mood would be so different. Of course, it would.
Absolutely.
Let's just cover the worst rumour I think I've ever seen on Twitter in relation to Cam Humphries on Saturday. Let's just cover it just in case anybody's not seen the full story. So the story is that Cam Humphries is apparently going to Derby for 1.5 million. I don't know how anybody would believe any of that could be anywhere near true. He's going to drop down the league to go down. Anyway, basically, what I would also add into that is Paul Warne's come out and said it's not true. So if anybody saw that and thought, "Oh my God, this could be the end," Paul Warne has said no. There is absolutely no truth in it. So don't worry, anybody. I have had messages from people, other clubs, suggesting that they are interested in Cam Humphries. So I think there may well be interest. And Mick, to be fair, why wouldn't there be interest in Cam Humphries?
Yeah,
he's a great player.
And at the right price, I'm sure he's for sale. We don't want rid of him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's a hell of a player. We don't want rid of him, but not happening. I mean, you've got people who claim to be legitimate journalists. Claim, you know what I mean, retweeting this, saying that we value him at one point. I mean, what?
Rotherham are happy to let him go, having just 3 days ago said we're in the talks for a new contract.
Yeah.
I mean, please, oh God, it must be so easy to be a journalist nowadays. You just scroll through Twitter, find something, reword it slightly, and claim that it's true. It's just absolute nonsense. These people are an embarrassment to their so-called profession, aren't they? They are. It's like,
absolutely.
Do your job. God, pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
What's Swansea in for him as well?
Swansea and Coventry are the two names. Why I would say are potentially legitimate names that are in for him. But that's just hearsay.
There's only Coventry that's got the finances to be able to do it, haven't they? Given that they sold 2 of their players, you know. But whether that money is going to be into Mark Robbins' transfer kitty is another matter altogether.
They've already spent quite a lot.
So look, it's just absolute nonsense, and I'm disappointed really that we're even giving these people any form of airtime. But at least we can be critical of them and try and embarrass them, but that's not what
the reason I mentioned it is because people may not have seen the Paul Warne confirmation that it's not true. That's the reason whatever it might rest, it isn't happening.
But, if you were going to tweet it out as a journalist and you did less than 30 seconds worth of research, you'd immediately come across the article where the manager of the club that you're saying are going to buy him has said, "No, we're not."
Yeah. I
mean, it would take you 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage, man.
Nicholas Gomez says 1.5 million might get you a strand of his hair.
Yeah, maybe.
Sam Darby says he's easily worth $5 million. I think with 2 years left in his contract. Why not? Why not?
Listen, if we're not Rotherham United, if we were called something else, if we were called Middlesbrough or Cardiff or whatever, or even McDonald's or Peterborough, it'd be worth 10 million. There is no question about that in the current market. Don't be, let's not beat around the bush here. If we were anybody else than Rotherham United, there's no way anybody would even entertain putting 1.5 million. So it's only because it's Rotherham United. And John Morell there's put it absolutely right. If he can play left side of it, we'll take him on Rotherham prices. That's exactly the situation. Bought off. He's not for sale unless you're coming into double figures. See you later.
And again, we don't often get many people over the clubs watching, but if there are any and sort of thinking Rotherham an easy touch, Matt Taylor's a different animal.
Yeah.
He is a different animal. He will play. From speaking to him on the podcast briefly and listening to his interviews, he's not going to take 500k for a guy who's worth £5 million at other clubs. He will want the value.
Yeah. He'll stamp his foot down.
Absolutely. Because he's going to find a replacement for that. And the Dan Barlas situation was different because he was 6 months on his contract. So I think that is definitely a different situation. And we reinvested to look at the players we brought in. So, yeah, don't take Rotherham lightly when Matt Taylor's in charge of us, is what I'll say to anybody listening. Having said that, Cameron Fries is a brilliant player. If you want to pay £10 million for him, he can work some out.
Hey, listen, Leicester played 15 million for Suter.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
In terms of the pre-match predictions, absolutely nobody got any correct prediction. We all predicted a Rotherham win. Lewis predicted a draw. So that was zeros all around. For that, I don't have the Super 6 updates because my internet on my phone is not quick at the moment. But make sure you do keep putting the Super 6 on. There's about nearly 50 people in our league at the minute. So good luck to everybody who is in the Super 6 league if you are, because that's it. That's all I've got. Anything else? There's no transfer rumours I have seen. There's nothing. Is there anything else that I've missed that you two think that we need to be covering or talking about over the next 2 or 3 minutes?
I don't think so.
No, I got nothing really.
I think we've covered just about all there is to cover from what was a disappointing afternoon for the Millers.
Finish on a laugh by saying Holly says we can get Mick in as a midfielder for the bench.
What you mean? Like, does she mean midfield on the bench? So we'll have strikers in front of me and defenders behind me on the bench. They ain't moving far from there. I'll be out of breath by the time I got to touchline.
Yeah.
You were a keeper, weren't you, Mick? You were never a midfielder, anyway.
Well, no.
Bit of everything.
No, I can't say that. I'm very small. Speaking of keepers, is it Mary Earps?
I can't remember first. That's just bad.
What a woman! I'm hugely impressed with her. Very disappointing result today for England. Very disappointing performance as well under circumstances, but nevertheless, she is a proper character, isn't she?
Yeah,
absolutely. Typical archetypal goalkeeper is what she is. Completely raving bonkers.
Yeah. No, it was a good game to watch. I enjoyed watching it. It was a good game.
It was a good game. Sadly, Spain were on top for 90 minutes. I thought Spain were comfortable with the best team.
Yeah, I think
referee could have sent off a Spanish player though late on.
Probably should have done that, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Well, she's been watching Bob Madley and said, "I don't want to do that." Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, she did exactly what he did to that blow with highlights, didn't she? Disappointing. I mean, that wouldn't have impacted the game, would it? Ultimately,
no, probably not.
I don't think it created anything. So, but it's been great to watch. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it, and I think it's only a matter of time before they lift that World Cup. Frankly,
yeah,
we're in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Real positives. Great achievement. It's a great achievement. Getting to any World Cup final in any sport in any discipline is a great achievement.
Yeah, better than the men's team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So good luck next time. We'll win Euros again next time, wherever that is.
Yeah.
Germany next summer for the men's.
All that.
You are?
It's all that, though, Euros now.
Yeah, true. Right, we'll end it there. Thank you, everybody who has been with us. I hope we've made you feel slightly better than you did to start with. No.
Group therapy.
Yeah. We should start charging for group therapy, shouldn't we? What do therapists charge? We get some of that, you reckon?
50 quid a session? I don't know.
Instead of that, please make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done already. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you watch it on Facebook or YouTube, give it a thumbs up. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you've subscribed on wherever you are and give us a 5-star rating, which it should allow you to do. We're back on Thursday this week. I can't see any issues well been moved, so Thursday we'll be back. Make sure you is that no reason to change it?
I won't be there. I should be in Dublin on Thursday.
I was in Dublin yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that later.
It makes it good disappointers and not be here, but we'll move on. We'll move on from that.
I'm sure everybody's really desperately upset about that.
I'm disappointed you're not joining us from Dublin. That is disappointing. But
Well, yeah,
whatever.
I suppose.
Whatever. We'll be back on Thursday. Well, the scout report that's booked in, so that should be out on Friday without any issues. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And yeah, that's all I've got for now. And we'll see you again on Thursday. Mick, thank you very much for being with us and enjoy Dublin. Don't drink too many Guinnesses.
I will. No problem.
Thank you. And Tom, thank you very much for being with us, mate. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Mick, press the button.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I know the Millers.
See you later.
It's a Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box for Doffin, he can hit them, and he does. Doffin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favor, drop me off in